only link that I had to water sports was I knew people were scared of the water in Myanmar. It's very taboo. Like when I was growing up, if we go to the beach, your parents would tell you don't go in the water. There's whirlpools. Like, oh, we heard the dead scream at night. All these folklore, and it's it's actually it still exists in the coastal villages. These folklores because people die. People die every year because they can't swim and they don't know what rip currents are. And people die every year still just by drowning by the shore. So there's these folklores, and I knew that if I went just randomly with no one there, I knew like when I come home, my parents are a little bit more protective of me, like if I'm around. And like I knew I wouldn't be able to go to where I wanted to go to if I just said I'm just going to show up at a random beach. So the closest thing to water sports was the sailing people. I knew the sailing people had training camps in the beach. So I went to a hotel that hosted the sailing training camps. And just because I kind of figured, okay, there's probably a lifeguard there, if something went wrong, there's probably a lifeguard there because they do water sports, like sailing training camps. So I went to that hotel, took my board, just went out surfing, came back in the water. And of course, like I went with my uncle who was freaking out when I paddled out because he thought I was drowning because because there was a really strong current and I got pulled. And so he went to go get the security card in the hotel. And like a bunch of people were waving at me from the land when I was surfing, and I just like waved back. But then they started screaming and I was like, okay, something's wrong. And I went back in and they thought I was drowning. I explained to them it's fine. The security guard said, you can't go out there by yourself. I'm like, I'm fine. Like I have a surfboard, like waves are not that big. And they're like, no, you can't go. And I met a guy, Carl, who still helps me with the self-surfing stuff. I met him. He was the person in charge of the sailing team at that time. And he was like, hey, like, do you know how to surf? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Can you tell these people that I'm fine? And he was like, oh yeah, I see. They were going to have a sailing camp at that time. And I connected with him there. And he was like, he also knew what surfing was. And he also had, it was like, he never really thought that it would happen. Like we were able to do it, but we would be able to do it so soon. But he was like, he wants to expand other water sports. He's been doing windsurfing, and he asked me if I wanted to, do like a little small surf camp for the kids. And yeah, and just like organically, we became better friends. And when the SEA Games happened, it became a little bit more official. Where now, like we have now we have to figure out like if we want to have sponsors, like this and that. But I think at the beginning, it happened very organically. It was a lot of luck. Where I was like, it would be nice to have a lifeguard on the beach. So I ended up going to this. I ended up staying at this hotel for a bit and met the people who were running the sailing camp. And with that, I just left the surfboards. I would come back every year whenever I get a break from school. And slowly we started getting more and more kids who, we started getting more and more boards too. That's like part of that. I think that was one of the main things as well. There are a lot of kids who want to surf, but I can't bring back that many boards. And I can't afford to buy like 200 boards either. So I just bring back whatever I can get. Like if my friends have like half broken boards, I'll tell them to connect it and I'll take it back. So we have a bunch of like half broken boards back home. But I mean, the kids from the village enjoy it, and they started surfing a lot, even when I'm not there, and they started getting really good. Yeah, and then SEA Games happened, so we hosted like this competition where all the kids from the village were invited. We try to get girls too. So when SEA Games happened, we were like, okay, I don't want to just compete. Like there probably are other women too in the country. We just kind of had to makeshift a national team to together. Yeah. So we hosted a national championships at Muisang, where we're like the winner of this competition will be selected to go to training camp for the SEA Games. So there was a women's league and a men's league. And in the women's league, it was me and like four girls from the village and two more girls who were my age who were from the city who have served once or twice before. So I like the women's league wasn't that many people, and the girls from the village have never surfed before. So like, I mean, I was like, okay, like then I'm going to the SEA Games. And we couldn't find any other women who would go to the SEA Games. So it was me and 5 boys. Me and 5 boys where I was the older person. So I was competing. I was like, I was helping, I was finding an apartment for them. I was figuring out who's going to feed them. Like I called my friend from LA, like, hey, like we have a national team, but we don't have money to hire a coach. So like, do you want to be our coach? So he flew over from LA. It was me, like my friend and 5 boys from the village and my friend Carl. And we went on an adventure together, a 7-month training program before the SEA Games. So that's like the journey prior to 2019 SEA Games.
I have 1 million questions. Oh my god, it's so
we had to makeshift a lot of things. We had to work with what we had.